It goes without saying that a world without art is not a world worth living in. Art is by far one of the purest forms of human expression that speaks to all of us in a language we can't explain and yet we feel nonetheless. On this episode of the Chattabox, I sit down with a future leader in creative media, Michele Mardorf. Michele is an art director in the advertising industry looking to create space for women and people of color. Michele was one of the few people that truly stood out to me during my time in high school, and from the moment we met, I knew I just had to know her. I'm curious, like, tell me about like where you actually are from, because I know you're from Spain, but you're from like a specific community in
Yeah,
Spain, and
yeah,
like how did you even get to the island?
yeah. So in from Spain, I'm from Mallorca, which is also another island. So it was kind of like, from like European island life, just hopping to now like Caribbean island life. The way we really ended up there was because the Shadys, they moved to Mallorca, and then they ended up being in school with me, and that was the first time I saw triplets because they were in my grade. I was
Oh
like,
wow,
I was like,
yeah.
because I saw them at the gym after with my mom, and I was like, hey mom, they go to school with me, blah blah. Then my mom and their mom like kicked it, like they started being like, I think now they're best friends basically.
Sweet.
So then we would be coming every Christmas. They invited us for Christmas one year, and then we just started going for Christmas there. Like at this point, we've gone there for 10, 12 years pretty much, probably every year.
Wow.
And then, yeah, one day, like when we were leaving, I was really sad. I turned around to my parents, like sitting in the airplane, and I'm like, what if we just move here? And then my parents are the type to really want to, like, just not live in the same place forever. So, eventually they really thought about it. They're like, fuck it, let's do it. So then, yeah, we moved there,
Dang,
ended up
that's lit.
LU, and that's how I ended up meeting you in the art class.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like that, I remember like I remember the reason like you were talking about something. I don't know what the conversation was about, but like it was like some random thing. It was like, "Oh yeah, like I did peyote in the desert like with my parents or something like that." And I was like, "Wait, what?" I don't know. Like even your art has always been awesome, you know? And so like I really enjoyed just seeing like all of the amazing things that you were coming up with, and just like we would have like funny, just chill ass conversations
Yeah.
in art, and it was super chill, and
It
I
was
like that.
fun. It
But
was fun.
it was so fun. I guess like so when you went to Miami to study and become an art director or a creative director.
So I moved to Miami first to do undergrad, and I studied there advertising. It was more advertising in
Sweet.
general, and then you could choose like two tracks, basically like the managerial track or the creative track. So I did the creative track. At that point, I didn't really know the difference between like copywriters and art directors, which, just to give you some context, in advertising is basically like, if you see an ad, an art director is the person that had to do with all the like visual elements that you see that kind of carry the storytelling, and then the copywriter is the one that actually writes like the copy, which with that we mean like the text that you see on the ads.
Mm.
So at that point, I didn't know. I just know that writing was my thing. So then I was doing, yeah, I was about to graduate, and as an international student, right, you need to start figuring out what you're gonna do. Like you can't just chill here and relax.
Yeah.
So then I decided to do my master's, and that's when you were able to choose those two tracks, like copywriting, art direction, or you can also choose strategy, which is very interesting as well. So yeah, I ended up choosing art direction because I started as an artist, and then that's I found my way in advertising. And yeah, so that's what I ended up getting my master's in, and here I am.
That's sweet. So what inspired you to get into art? Like, or did you always know you wanted to be a creative person?
Oh, for sure. Like since little, I'm an only child. And my parents always like to travel. So wherever we would travel, I would take my notebook at the time. Ain't nobody had iPads, and then all my colors. And then yeah, I would just always draw. In the beginning, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So I have this. My mom still saves the notebook like with all my designs from when I was probably like 5 years. Um,
That's so
they
cute.
were really funny. Honestly, probably no one would wear those these days or those days or anytime, but it was a good start. Then I wanted to become an interior designer because I really got into Sims. I don't know if you remember Sims days, but
Yes, I
yeah.
love Sims. I would build and build
Yes.
multiple dream
Yeah.
realities. Like,
Know all the cheat codes and everything just to build more.
hell yeah, get all the
Yeah.
money. Just like,
Yeah.
ka-ching, ka-ching.
Mother load as fuck. Anyways.
Yeah.
um so then after that, my mom, she does art, but she paints. She's a painter. So that's what always inspired me to just continue really discovering what in the art scene I want to do. So then I just wanted to be like a conceptual artist in general. So basically, it's artists that don't just do art for the sake of like, oh, this looks good or it makes like there's a story behind it, like a concept. And then I realized that I also like business and strategy. And that's kind of where advertising kind of comes in because it's kind of all those things
Mm,
tied together. Plus, like,
yeah.
I always love psychology as well. So it kind of really brings in the psychology element. Just a bunch of
Yeah.
things that, yeah, just ended up leading me there.
And like I remember you did a few different campaigns. I don't know if it was for specific classes, but which were like cuz those were those for a specific client? Cuz they were all like really cool and you use like different I would say like methods for the different ones. Like you had the cutouts with the paper
Oh, those.
and then the one that the heel one I love. Like that one has such
Hmm.
deep meaning. Like that was so beautiful. Is which one I guess is like your was your favorite one to do? Cuz they're all like so
I mean, I see it as two different things because, like, campaigns for me just have to do with advertising.
okay.
And then in advertising, when like I'm switching to my advertising brain, I'm basically like solving the client's problem that they have. But when I'm doing art, like for example, the Heal project that you were mentioning, that's more like personal projects that I do more with my artist mind. That is, how am I going to solve my own problems that also then, like, reflect with society, what society is going through and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, yeah, so you would have two answers depending on which one you're asking me, if it's more like art related or advertising related.
Okay, so I guess which one is your favorite more advertising related? Like campaign?
A full blown campaign, like not just an ad, anything. I did this one, which was for like IKEA. It was for a class. We had to bring in like a celebrity, but at that point, I already had in my mind that it was I want to go into doing art direction, but for like music labels or like the music scene. So I was like, I asked
Yeah.
my instructor, I was like, oh, can I do it for a label? So he was like, yes. So I did IKEA partnering basically with OVO Sound, like Drake's label.
Mm.
So it was a product creation class. I created like a whole catalog of, furniture inspired by OVO, like a whole campaign in which, how Drake had like hotline bling. So
Yeah.
it would be like kind of a play on that like you could call them and then sometimes Drake would answer and he would help you like build the furniture because, IKEA, ain't nobody like, sometimes you don't know how to build the stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun project
It
too.
was.
Like to just be able cuz you could really take that anywhere.
Mhm.
That is so cool.
Mhm.
Sometimes I wish I took like an art class in college because I didn't even know about dual majors. So I didn't like think, oh, let me go do design while I'm doing
Yeah,
engineering. But
I didn't know.
design is so amazing. Like I'm so jealous. Like it is so like I feel like you really get to express just like the just like the thoughts and the
Yeah,
ideas that
yeah,
go
yeah,
on in
yeah.
your head.
It's dope. It's dope. And especially once you get to know all the programs and stuff like that more, like that helps you kind of like let other people like visualize what you are mentally visualizing.
Yeah. I guess like what are the most common like programs that you use as a designer or art director to create content? Is it usually Adobe? Because that's like all I know.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah. So most of the things is like the Adobe Cloud from like Illustrator, Photoshop, Lightroom. I started getting into like doing 3D stuff, so I also use Dimension. And then yeah, I've also started doing some like AR stuff, like augmented reality. And then
Yes, that stuff is so cool. Yeah, your the mask you made or like the
yay,
filter.
Yeah, that was fun. For
That
that,
stuff is
it's
so
like
cool.
Spark AR, which belongs to Facebook. And then I don't know, there's a lot of like also when I try to do like illustrations, because I try to bring my artist side into kind of like the digital world. So I sometimes take my iPad. So for that, you would use like Procreate and things like that. Sadly, you do have to pay for all of these, which is kind of this whole thing I have with like, oh, the arts is not really accessible to everyone. But whatever, that's another fight. I will fight another day.
I do think it is. I agree. Like the arts is something that I feel like doesn't really get a lot of attention, but it's something that feeds into everything that we do, and we take
Mhm.
it for granted.
Yeah.
Everything that every like way that humans express themselves in some shape, way, or form has a creative
Mhm.
element. Like, and it's just like how we move through the world. Like fashion is creative,
Mhm.
like the things that are trendy, these are from creative minds, and yet just don't we
Yeah,
don't
dude,
give
all
kids
of
like
it.
an outlet to really just express
Mhm.
themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what sucks too is that like it's not just like not paying attention to them, but also like it really is a privilege for you to fully be able to like dive into the arts. Because it's like that means you need to buy materials, and not everyone has all of that like, accessibility to doing all of that. So I don't know. Since I think for a couple of years now, I've had in my mind that like once I'm really up there, I'm gonna kind of like do this foundation thing to make kind of like the arts more accessible for like kids that don't necessarily like
That's
are.
awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's another project in a few years.
Yeah, I think it's hard, especially I feel like, you at least it was like you had art, but it still wasn't taken super seriously. We did have like some competitions and
Yeah.
that gave you some like creative outlet, but it's not like a full blown fine art studio where you can sculpt like really, really big things
Mhm.
or do really wild installments.
And even here, dude, even here, like the schools, I from like the American system, what I'm learning from my friends over here is you really like if you don't want, you don't ever have to really touch art class. There's just so many electives and everything that does not make you have to go through that path that, also parents don't really take that seriously. So they're like, oh, do something else. And yeah.
I guess like what so now that cuz you graduated with your masters.
Hmm.
How do you navigate, like, as a designer like, are you trying to work like, is it to go work in an ad agency and, like, be the creative director on different campaigns, or is it more of, like, creating your own collection to have in a gallery,
Oh, no, no, no.
or, like, working with products in, like, tech and stuff like that?
I kind of left the whole art idea, like that whole thing of having a gallery, more as something I would do in my personal time whenever they give me personal time, because these days I don't have none. But in terms of my route, so there is a difference between being a designer and an art director. I'm really just like following the art direction track at this point. Miami Ad School, what it kind of like teaches you is how to navigate that in the advertising world. So like, getting into an ad agency, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I realized from the beginning that I don't know, I was more willing to explore other paths instead of just being like, oh, this is what people do, this is what I'm gonna do. So I kind of really want to merge my passion for music into what I like, how I end up applying my art direction knowledge, basically. So,
Mm.
like, when it comes to labels, like, it's been my dream since the beginning. Like, I've been talking about this for years. The stuff for like Dreamville or things like that. Anything music related, that's kind of where I see myself doing the work, and especially if it's also work that we can merge at the same time. Like the barrier of entry sometimes to this industry has a lot to do with, minorities might not always have the chance to get in as much as, the counterpart. So kind
Yeah.
of working in a way that I can help other people that are also like people of color and stuff like that coming in. I don't know, I realized I really like mentoring, for example,
Yeah.
because I had some great mentors. So kind of like, okay, I had to figure it out. Also, as an international student, that puts you a lot of extra like heavy work. So how can I make it easier for people that come after me to kind of figure that out
Yeah.
as well? Yeah.
How was it for
But I don't know
you
if I answered
going
your
to the
question.
States? No, you totally did. Not don't worry about But, like, I feel like because you have a European passport, but I guess did you also have to go through the whole, like, visa process to study
Hmm.
in the US?
Yeah. So I was an international student, for like from undergrad to like my master's. And then that comes with a lot of like restrictions as to finding a job. Like you can only work on
Yeah.
campus unless you get like an extra visa that like costs money and all of that. Issues even when like Trump last year, in the middle of COVID, he was like, let's kick out all the international
Yeah,
students. We were like,
exactly.
what the hell?
Like, bro, I'm just trying to get my education.
Yeah, like what do we do? Yeah. So yeah, I've always had to like deal with that. Even right now, I'm on like an OPT, which is basically an extension to your student visa. And then yeah, I'm not even allowed to leave the country or nothing until like I find a job. Yeah. It's sad. They make
Yeah,
it
I
so
mean,
hard.
it's
But
definitely it's annoying, and it's something that I feel like a lot of international students have to go through that people don't realize like is a burden that people have to wear, where it's like you literally can't mess up even a little bit, because then that's it, like you're out
mhm.
of here. And that's a, like that door is slammed, because they definitely are not going to make it easier. It's going to be in your file. They're going to be like, oh yep, yeah,
Mm-mm.
no, you're not coming in. So
Dude, even every time I come into the airport, like in immigration, it's like I have to do another line, than like American residents. And that line usually takes forever and they check
long.
every single little paper. The amount of
Exactly.
times I've been in that back room of the airport for minor, like for stuff I haven't even, like, I don't know, man, for no reason. It's crazy.
I guess, do you see yourself staying in the States, or do you think you would wanna work for even labels in, like, other, like, European countries, or in, I don't know, where, like, Canada? I don't know where other labels are.
I mean, hey, Canada, like OVO, Drake's label, I would, that for that one, I would consider Canada. Other than that, not really. The US ideally is where I would stay just because I like more like hip hop labels, and that's kind of where they really
Yeah.
are. But let's say I would have to go back to Europe. I don't know. I would consider doing stuff more with like Afrobeat and stuff like that. Just really exploring that side too.
Yeah.
That would be
Where
cool.
did your, like, love of music first start? Or, like, was it kind of hand in hand with art? You just always really had a taste for it?
Well, funny enough, I get this stuff from art from my mom because she like paints and stuff. But my dad used to be in a rock band, so I grew up with,
Sweet.
I grew up with like him blasting like rock music. Then my mom used to dance salsa back in the day, so like I grew up also with hearing a lot of like loud salsa, just loud music everywhere. So that really made me love music from the beginning, and I feel like also as an only child, I don't know, it's like you gotta keep yourself occupied, and music kind of helped me do that, while at the same time I'm just as a person, like I'm don't have the easiest time expressing my feelings and communicating, and I feel like music kind of lets me do that. It's
Mm.
just like I just zone out and like someone does it for me, but it's kind of the feelings that I feel.
Yeah. But your favorite genre is hip hop, hands down?
It's the storytelling that comes with hip hop and like just the culture as a whole. But other than that, I also listen to, like I said, a lot of Afro beats, if not R&B, alternative, however you pronounce that English word. R&B, reggae. I don't know. My taste goes pretty broad. Caribbean music, Spanish music. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, especially, like, as someone that you travel a lot, you get exposed to a lot of different tastes of music, and especially on the island, I feel like we play a pretty good variety of
Mhm.
American music, but also, like, Caribbean, like, Afrobeat music, and then you have, like, your European techno, oops, oops, like, all that
Yeah,
ABBA,
yeah,
all that
yeah.
good stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely, I feel like that's what influenced my musical taste, is just listening to all the good stuff that we play all the time, just
Mhm.
vibing. But I guess, like, what would be, like, your ideal, so I know you've been doing, like, amazing stuff with Dreamville. Is that where you're, like, that's, like, your number 1, you would love to be there? Or is there, like, other like, specific labels that you're like, that would be amazing?
I mean, there's for sure other specific labels that I will be like, this, I can't believe it. But it's for like years now, and you can ask all my friends, even all like my Miami ad school teachers, even FIU teachers. I've been talking about Dreamville for like, I don't know how long. So yeah, now that I'm finally, it's not like I work for them, but I'm able to have them as a client.
You have a relationship with them, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm doing this program that basically it just helps. It's a fellowship that helps really like shape marketers and stuff like that for like to get into the like work field more in terms of like diversity, like people of color and stuff like that. So then the program for this year is sponsored by Apple and Dreamville. So that's how we get to do like they are technically our clients, and
I
that's how we get to like
see.
do work for them, consult, whatever it may be. Yeah, that's how we kind of have. I was able to do work.
Yeah, but I feel like that's definitely like how you just need a foot in the door. You just need to know somebody's name, someone's email, and then next thing you
Mhm.
know, you are there. Like it's mind blowing how just knowing somebody can really
Yeah.
get you places. But that's awesome. Apple and Dreamville. I feel like the
Mhm.
design for tech companies is so interesting because they really it's all about the aesthetic and it's always like
Mhm.
really understanding how do you make something that's pretty and useful. But I remember like
Mhm.
cuz you hit me up about designing headphones and like the whole process of
Oh
how do
yeah.
you make like headphones that have a really cool user experience. What I guess like was the headphones a project or like a thesis?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a school project that I had.
I love that. I remember when you showed me the presentation. It was so cool. Like, would you want to speak on like what the idea was and what you were trying to implement?
Oh yeah, so it kind of was this idea we had. We wanted to do it for like Spotify, and it was in the middle that the whole COVID happened. Everyone was socially distancing. Like everyone was kind of missing that
Mm,
connection. So the way we kind of came about it was like, okay, well, music connects people, but like when you have your headphones or
yeah.
whatever on, you don't necessarily know what the other person is playing.
Yeah.
So, there's that barrier. But what if you could kind of see visually through like different color like schemes, what at least what the genre is? Or like if you're in a certain channel, it means that everyone's listening to the same song you are at the same time. So like let's say you hop on like the subway, and then there's someone sitting across from you that has the
Yeah.
headphones that also have the purple light that you have. It means like you're both listening to the same channel. And then I don't know, that might spark something, you never know. If you have the same music taste, that's kind of speaking like the same language. So it's kind of like, a cool like point of contact. So then, yeah, I hit you up to know all the like little technical details on like how it would work with also like spatial audio. We wanted to do this whole room. Some crazy stuff. You can afford to have those crazy ideas in school projects because, there's no budget.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
in the real world, they'll be like, yo, excuse me, miss. Like, what do you think this is?
I know, but I think it's important to have that because sometimes like you need like those weird, like crazy out there ideas to push technology for it. And then you have like your Kickstarter, your startup, and then you just get a smidgen of money. And next thing you know, you have like something really, really cool. And
Mhm.
having those types of experiences is definitely
Mhm.
feasible. There's just you need to like convince the tech companies to go out there and
Yeah.
build that stuff because budget, yeah, you need a there's so much stuff
Yeah.
that goes into building tech, like it's insane. But I think
Mhm.
it's super important. I guess like what aspects of like your life do you think influences your art or like the way that you design or the way that you look at concepts or ideas for different
Mhm.
campaigns and projects?
I think my process really goes back to we have this tendency to sometimes already think of, oh, this will be like dope on social media, whatever. But a lot of times, like what I mostly do is try to take it back and really be like, okay, what is like a human insight that kind of connects all of us, right? It being that like I don't know, those saying that no one likes to waste their time, right?
Yeah.
Like that's everyone agrees on that. That's kind of like an insight almost. And then, you can get more specific off of that. And then that's kind of how you can create like a whole campaign out of it that just bases on that thing that we all as humans agree. And then I also have really like this strategy brain in me that kind of makes me approach it also like throughout research and doing all of that. not just like being like, okay, this will be cool.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of when I let my creative juices flow, and then eventually like an idea is born, and then you implement the visuals that would go into the idea.
That's awesome. Is it hard sometimes, like, when you're an artist dealing with how your work is perceived by others? Because especially if you have a vision in your mind and you're like, "Okay, I know human instinct interprets this way," and you create this whole piece, and then you put it out there, and then people it takes on its own a life of its own, like, you ultimately can't
Mm-hmm.
control how other people perceive things. I guess, like, how do you deal with that as an artist? Because sometimes I feel like it can be hard to put your work out there and have not
Mm-hmm.
people not understand and appreciate it the way that you do because of all the work and the backstory that it means to you.
Well, I think there's two ways for this. As an artist, like imagining me creating my own personal art pieces, I I don't really care if it doesn't resonate with the person, because at that point I'm doing stuff that is for me. The whole heel piece, or the thing I did with the Enso circle that was about like perfectionism, that solves my own problems. That then I've seen once I put it out, that's where I've seen like, oh, there's a lot of engagement. Like people actually resonate with this.
Yeah.
But it was more about like, oh, how do I heal my, like that's kind of my therapy. And then on the other side, if I'm talking more about advertising, like let's say I create something that isn't as well received, I really learned to kind of like not take it personal, and then just really listen to the team, because it's not like stuff just gets put out there without having a lot of people to get it
Yeah.
reviewed and stuff like that. So then it's really like, okay, is my team telling me, does it make sense? Why? Like I really am able to just not get too attached to it and be like, okay, once I listen to the feedback, like how do I make this better? Because if it's not hitting the target, you kind of have all those people that kind of tell you from the strategy point and from like all of this, like why it's not working.
Yeah. I think that's good that there is at least some the constructive criticism and not just letting like other people's opinions necessarily like stop your creative process. Cause I feel like even me, like sometimes it's like, oh, if someone doesn't like something, then it makes you think like, oh, like, did I do something wrong or does something need to
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
fixed or what do I need to change when maybe there's nothing that needed to be changed. It's just like that's just how it was received. Let's keep
Yeah.
going, try again.
That's that's also another layer of this whole like advertising thing, is like, okay, you can have a great idea and you can execute it really well, but at the end of the day it all comes down on like how you pitch it. A lot of ideas have died, like this is a saying that everyone says. Like a lot of ideas have died in the pitch room, or like whatever, in the conference room, because it really is that you can have a bomb ass idea, then you pitch it like trash, no one's gonna like get it, and then the next agency comes along and they have an okay idea, but the way they pitched it was like super innovative or like super cool. That's all you need. That's really all you need.
Yeah. That's it. I guess, like, as someone that works in advertising, like, where do you see the future of it going? Like, do you see it more being like these social curated experiences where, like, if we all have a similar taste, like, we have this unique thing that reminds us, like, we're connected? Or, like, do you see it going to that more AR, like, VR world? Or is it staying, like, on TV kind of in your face?
No. So like it's definitely gonna get more and more digitalized, and then even more and more personalized, because they just have so much information from you. And it doesn't just have to do with advertising, right? Like tech companies and all, you just have so much information of you out there. So really the way they like kind of target ads now is that it gets very niche. And now that more people are starting like getting to know other like cultures through like the internet and everything, you get to making that target persona even a more specific profile. And then also with technology, right now, the way the technology is set up, like AR is only starting to pick up. But once all the phones are really like optimized and everything in general is optimized more for those kind of technologies, AR, VR, like XR, and all of that is really gonna pick up like 1000%. So that's gonna be really interesting. And then the thing with advertising is though, like you always have to keep up with the news, like what this cool brand just did that is super innovative and stuff like that. And it could be really inspiring, and at the same time, if you're not in the right state of mind, it could be very intimidating, you know? So it's really like how strong can you get your like mental to be to really compete, because this is super like extra competitive, and there's a lot of like post syndrome after that. And yeah,
So, do you think there is a lot of imposter syndrome in the art world?
in the art world for sure, but I think the art world takes a more personal stance, for many people at least. But then when it comes to advertising, I know like almost every creative I talk to, they have struggled with that in one way or another.
I feel like it's just self-doubt, you know? It's just doubting, like, your ability and, like, thinking, like, "Oh, I'm not good enough." And, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know where it comes from. I honestly don't know, like, where that self-doubt starts in because even in my mindset, I hear it sometimes, and I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh, shit, like, can that just shut up?"
Yeah.
And you have no idea where it's coming from. But go ahead.
I think also a lot of it when it comes to creatives is that creativity cannot really be like measured like data can. So it's like you're never really sure like, oh, you're a great creative, but how are you a great creative? You know, you just get
Yeah.
measured maybe if you're in advertising by like all the measurements that come off your ad. But other than that, it's like you never have a full response. It's more like what people perceive. So then, and also our greatest power is our brain. So then if you're really stressed and stuff like that, you're like, fuck, like we cannot come up with like ideas for this next concept, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole like thing. And I think also since it's such a competitive field, let's say you're in Apple or something like that, you are surrounded by great minds every fucking where. So then you really start thinking like, damn, like, like what am I in comparison to this person?
Yeah.
But I think you just have to remember that like you're there for a reason, right? Like
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
have it in you too, but it's hard to remember you like sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it's tough and the voice gets really loud and you're like, maybe it's convincing me. And you gotta be like, no, no, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. Let's remember we are a badass.
Mhm.
Let's but I guess
Yeah.
like how do you deal with like staying original or like being authentic? Because I feel like sometimes it's hard when there's so much to influence you, making sure
Mhm.
that you're not just like copying something that's out there, but your brain thinks it's original for some reason. I like how do you
Mhm.
ensure like you're like just staying authentic to Michelle and just like what how you look at things?
I mean, I think if it has just to do with staying authentic to Michelle, I think it's just such a natural thing for me. Like I never try to be something I'm not or anything. That is just like that I don't really worry about because I never try to copy anything or anyone. But when it comes to my work, especially work that gets put out like in advertising, because then you have to deal with like copyright stuff and all of that.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's hard because at the end of the day, not many ideas, like no idea, nothing at this point is original anymore. It's more like your angle or your perception of it that can make an idea original again.
Yeah.
So then it's just you finding that voice, like you said, you get very influenced by social media, especially visually. Like you're like, oh, damn, this is cool. And then eventually, when you're thinking something else down the line, unconsciously, you brought that idea with you.
Yeah.
So it is definitely hard, but I think also you got to do your research after, releasing like, okay, I had this dope idea. Like, has this been done in one way or another before? And then, I don't know, just keep doing stuff out of what you do for work to kind of stay inspired and think stuff from different angles.
Is self-care you think like a big part of how you stay like calm and also just like have that energy to be creative? Like do you think like that's a huge part of just like being a creative person is making sure you have that time to relax and really give yourself space?
My age, that's actually something I'm currently struggling with. I just don't have any of that time right now, but I still push myself to stay creative in a way. I do know that way like crazier and more innovative out the box ideas come when I'm fully like being able to take care of all my mental, physical, everything. Especially what really helps me is like what I used to do is like sit down in my balcony, smoke a joint or two and meditate.
Mm.
That used to really like I had an idea book right outside with me, and then that shit would just get filled, 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 filled. But that was when I had the time to really do that. Now it's like
Yeah.
I can barely. take my time to do that because it's like I have to my brain needs to be on. Like if I get a call, oh, we have this like meeting that just was just scheduled, like I cannot skip that and I cannot be high for that for sure. I don't know. I'm really trying to find my way. Like this is my first weekend that I finally had time to really relax. All the other weekends I have been working since I've been in this program. It definitely helps.
Is this the program? This is the Dreamville Apple
Mhm.
program with
Mhm.
the the Miami Ad School?
Oh
Sweet.
yeah, it's not with Miami Ad School. It's with this. The program is by the Marcus Graham Project. They're solely dedicated to really, like I mentioned before, like shaping minorities to make it easy, not easier, but like to bring more attention to like the talent that is really out there. While it might get
Mm,
overlooked, just generally because it's so just like filled with a lot of great talent from everywhere.
yeah. Do you think diversity is an issue, like, in the art creative world?
Yeah, 1,000%. From the art standpoint, like from the beginning of the days, like even through history, the everything that has been created has made and been put on history books is mainly like white history and like white stuff like that. And then in terms of advertising, it is definitely a problem to the point that like agencies and companies like make sure to have like X amount of diversity. The issue with that is that sometimes companies approach it like authentically and genuinely, like yes, we're truly trying to make an effort to make this environment more diverse,
Yeah,
and then there's some that are just trying to meet a quota so then they can like get
just
the
get
money
on with
from the
it.
stakeholders or like whatever. Yeah, so then that's an issue for sure.
And, like, even was, like, did you have diversity as an issue even, like, in your, like, college program? Like, it was faculty of, like, more leaning one side than all different races?
I think undergrad, because I'm in, well, both. The thing both, because I'm in Miami, you're definitely gonna have more like, Hispanic or like
Yeah.
white. To be honest, I've probably only had from FIU like two black instructors. I've had some Asian, like that's one of the reasons I chose my FIU, because I actually had a scholarship to go to University of Miami. But for me, I don't know, when I visited both campuses, just my I keep saying Miami as FIU has just more diversity, more different types of people just walking around. Well, for me, like me personally, I don't know if it was that day, but that's the perception I got. It was just, mainly white, mainly like rich kids and stuff like that. And I don't know, after living in St. Martin, after living in the island I'm from Spain, those were places that it was always so many different ethnicities from everywhere.
Yeah.
You would hear different languages and everything. So I know, I just kind of had the intuition that the places
You'd
that
feel more
really,
comfortable,
yes,
yeah.
not just comfortable, but the places that really inspire me more and make me like flourish and like kind of glow. It's really those places where I get to see different cultures altogether rather than just one culture.
Yeah, I it's interesting because when I moved to Michigan, it's definitely a predominantly Caucasian student body and faculty. But it's like for me growing up on the island, I was so used to being around people that me not being, a majority or it was not really weird. Like I didn't care. It didn't bother me because I was like,
Mhm.
well, I'm used to a place where I've met everybody, and so just because there's less of that, it's not really gonna bother me, and I didn't really let it
Mhm.
get me down, but I will say coming to America was definitely a transition. I don't know, like, how
Mhm.
was it for you? Like, just, like, the culture.
I think it definitely was a shock, but also like at that point I had lived already in Spain, Peru, and St. Martin before moving to the US. And then I had visited 40 countries. So for me, it's always been in kind of my mind, like I just adapt wherever I go.
Yeah.
But it is definitely like a culture shock because, the more I'm here, and even to this day, I realize like, damn, there's a lot of things about the American culture that I don't know. And just also like, even just like as humans, the way we interact, the way like, some like Americans might act, it will be different than how like Europeans may act, or like especially like Spain. You cannot
Yeah.
generalize the whole Europe, but like Spain would act. And little things like that, that is like, you just have to, instead of approaching it with like, oh damn, I'm not being understood, or like, oh damn, you're weird for thinking differently. It's more like, okay, no, because I feel like sometimes people do that. I feel like sometimes people have done that for like me saying something that, like, in my mind and from where I'm from, is totally normal. And then like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, coming here, they look at you weird, like, oh, like, why you eating that way, or like, why you doing whatever you're doing. And it's like, you just gotta come at it with like understanding that different cultures act differently, and it doesn't make them any like weirder
Mhm.
just if they don't act like you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I feel like growing up on the island, I'm more open-minded and patient with people that are different from me, especially if like English is not their first language. I like make
Mhm.
it an effort to actually try to listen to them. And like even like pronouncing people's names, like I think because we grew up somewhere where it's a lot of people, you're like you respect people enough to say the name they are given and not
Mhm.
just give them like a white name
Mhm.
because it's convenient. Um so yeah, just some trash stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you have been to 40 different
Mhm.
countries. Like, is this like in throughout Europe or like in Asia or South America? Like,
Everywhere.
I'm like amazed. So okay, what are the top countries that you've been to that you're like you should totally go
Oh
there?
damn. So for me, those are the ones that are kind of the most like culturally different. um I just love learning about new cultures. So number one is like Japan, man. I mean, not number one, but like from my top, Japan is one of those at the top. So Japan for sure. China is also very interesting. Then Egypt was honestly one of the best ones ever, just because I always love like mythology and all of that.
The pyramids. Yeah.
Yeah. Greece for sure. Also, Greek food has my heart. And then Thailand. But Thailand, I feel like not just for culture, but also if you want to go to relax to like the islands over there.
Beautiful.
Yes,
Beautiful. I
yes,
That's where I'm
yes.
retiring. I already told Will. I'm like, we're retiring in Thailand. I don't know what we need to do to make
Uh-huh.
it happen, but that is where
Yeah,
we are going. The food is
yep,
amazing. The people are so friendly. And yeah, the beaches in the south,
yes.
and they have the best fruit. They have my favorite fruit of all time. I love
Which is,
mangosteen.
oh,
Have you ever had the mangosteen? Oh, I swear I'm like so mad I don't have one with me right now. Like it's just mangosteen is like top tier delicious. They have all the lychees, the rambutan, the
mm-hmm,
best food in my life. I swear
mm-hmm,
Thailand has my heart. Like
yes,
retiring there.
mm-hmm,
Like it's my
mm-hmm,
mind's made up. I want to go to
yep.
Japan. I really do. I want
Japan is
to
amazing.
go skiing though. I want to
To
check out the
Japan?
mountains. Yeah, apparently
Oh,
they have great
really?
mountains. Will wants to
They do, they
snowboard
do.
there.
Yeah, I have family that lives there, so we went to the Fuji mountain. Well, like we were at the
Sweet.
bottom, but we could see it. That was really
Yeah.
impressive. That was really impressive.
What is your favorite part of Japan? Because I know they have like amazing convenient tech everywhere,
Hmm.
but like I'm curious, like since you've actually been there, like what is the best part of going there?
Um, in terms of like where I would live, it would be kind of Kyoto more than Tokyo. Tokyo's a little bit too much for me. Kyoto kind of still has that more traditional and like a little bit more space. Also, I'm very paranoid with like earthquakes. So Tokyo has so many skyscrapers that I'm like, maybe tone it down a little bit. Let me survive over here. But then in terms of visiting, you just really the one of the things that really had my mind like blown. I can't remember right now what it's called, but it's kind of like a place where they have like the tories, which are those orange doors, kind of like the door frames.
I feel like I know what you mean. It's like that their arch kind of way, and it has
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the like kind of
So
spikes at the top, kind of.
yeah, yeah, it has kind of black. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But yeah, so that basic, and it's just such a bright orange that they've had for so many years now. It's just crazy how, I don't know, it's Japanese culture, man, like insane.
What did
Insane.
you
Oh
eat
yeah,
over
it's
there?
called,
Like
It's called Fushimi Inari.
Fushimi
Yeah, but
Inari.
here you see it.
Oh, yeah, that looks cool. That looks very, very cool.
Yeah, yeah. So that's really impressive. What I ate there, honestly, sushi, but
Is it better there? Is it like more just fish, less of the saucy sauce?
that's what I was about to say. You really realize how like westernized sushi has been once you go there because they only have the like really basic, but like the fish is fire. You know, when you get your salmon, whatever, the salmon literally like melts
Taste
in your tongue.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like butter.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm
so
ready.
then they're really simple ones, and what's really crazy is like they have a lot of like supermarkets underground, and those supermarkets be having like, let's say, like watermelon shaped like a cube or like some crazy shit that I don't know, that's just a whole world on its own. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely I wanna go. When I was in China, though, I didn't really have a great time. I got sick. It was just not it for me.
Where did you go?
Where were we? I feel like we were in Guangzhou, so it was, like, more in the industrial southern
Mm-hmm.
part of China. Cause my dad, like, did business there, and he would go to his suppliers there, and I went with him one time because I was like, "Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go
Hell
to
yeah.
Asia, like, why not?" But yeah, no, I got sick, it was terrible for me, at least, and then, like, when I was sick, I definitely didn't wanna eat any of the food because I was just like, "I just want some
Yeah.
soup. I just wanna
American.
feel better, like, can someone give
Yeah.
me cheese?" But then when I went to India right after, and I love India, I love the food. Indian food is the best shit on this planet, hands down. If you
Hmm.
wanna make the world vegan, make the world eat Indian food. I swear it will fix all of our problems. Like, the food is so good. The food is so good.
Sounds like you have a plan already.
I'm telling you, Imma live in Thailand, and then I'll just, skeet skeet over to India when I need that good authentic stuff, and if I need to come back to America, I could just fly to Seattle, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
What were you doing in Thailand? Were you just in the South, or did you visit the North as well? Because Northern Thailand is beautiful as well with all the monasteries.
Yeah, so I've been in Thailand twice, possibly three times. I'm not sure about the third. The time that I was little, like I was probably 5, 6, 7. We went more to do all the tours, like with the monasteries, all the temples, all the like all of that cool stuff. And then the other time we more stayed in the islands because we had gone to China for 3 months. So then it was like, okay, after, because my dad makes a walk like forever, man. Like this man is just on a mission, and then we're just walking, and then you literally walk the whole day. And then he's super picky with where to eat. So then we'll be walking and walking and walking until he finds a restaurant that he thinks he like the food is good. And yeah, that's a whole mess. But then so we deserve to relax afterwards. So we went to it's called the PP Islands. That's where they filmed like James Bond and all of that. Yeah, that was great. That was great.
Yeah, Phuket, all of over there is just
Yes, yes.
beautiful. Wait, why were you in China for three months?
That's how long my dad likes to travel. Something, and China is huge. And my dad just refuses to stay in one city for 2 days. He's like, we're spending 1 week here, 1 week there, 1 week there. And then, yeah, that's kind of how I was raised. Like, I was never home for summer. I could never spend time with my friends. I was just, well, I sound so ungrateful, but I was
But I
traveling.
feel like I'm like that sounds lit because I feel like that's like when you're at least
It is.
there for longer, you really get to at least like know the area, instead of just passing through it.
It is when you're older and you get to appreciate it. But when you're a kid, all you want to do is play with your friends.
I feel
So
you.
it definitely made me the person that I am today, with just like, I always just had to hang out with my parents. So like I think a little bit more like, I don't know, like with that open mind of how we always approach like traveling and like being respectful to other cultures and all of that. It just gave me a way broader perspective than if I would have just stayed home and played with my friends.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's important to see like how you're supposed to behave in other people's countries because I think like a lot of people in the States, at least, they've never left the States, so they just think like the way you act in America is the way you can
Mhm.
act
You're
everywhere.
supposed to. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, like,
And
it's
if
like
you act
my way or the
different,
highway, and yeah, but
mhm,
it's
I
like,
agree.
no, if you're in another man's country, you need to abide by their rules. Whether you agree
Mhm.
with them or not, this isn't your country, so it's not what you want, it's not they don't care what you think, just behave.
Yeah, and even in your own country, even in your own country, like you should still respect other cultures.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I guess, like, because you've traveled so much, do you think, like, the architecture from other places, like, the foods and the experiences that you had engaging with them and seeing, like, even what the artists are like in different places of the world, like, 'cause even in Egypt, you have, like, the ancient Egyptian hieroglyph is like a I feel like it's sculpture,
Mhm.
it's literally a living I mean,
Mhm.
not living, but it's a sculpture, architecture. Do you think that that also influences, like, how you think as an artist? Because you also have to think of, like you carry with you on some level the history of just, like, human creation and, like, all of the
Mhm.
awesome, beautiful things that humans have created in our finite little lifespan on Earth.
Mhm.
Like
I feel like when it comes to just me more being like an art director, I always like whatever direction I propose and when I pitch it, most of the times is like if it has to do with branding or things like that, is really based on like some kind of art movement or some point in history that has inspired that moment. So I do use history into like whatever visual like storytelling I bring. And then that just gets tied to like for me history, it's not just like the history of my country or stuff like that. It's more like, overall history when it comes to even like Asian history, like, what they had to do in like Japanese art forms and all of that. I kind of bring that in not only in my like as an art director, but I also bring it in as an artist in my.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess, like, what so for, like, students that are, like, trying to think of picking art as a career, but they're not really sure, like, what to do, I guess, do you have any advice, like, having gone through that process that you would have given little Michelle, when she was applying and trying to figure it out? Like, "Hey, like, you got this, but, this is what you
Hmm.
gotta do, like, it's gonna be okay."
I mean, what I did really is what helped me is I figured out that I wanted to do advertising literally my like last semester of high school. Just when Mr. Khan was like, "You guys need to apply," like I was like, "Fuck, okay, let me figure this out." Because my thing is like, I when it comes to being an artist, it's a very hard profession. Like just you being an artist, just an artist. I knew that for me, I don't think my talent is necessarily all that crazy to make it with the ambition I have in mind to make that happen. So the way I went about it was more like, okay, since I'm just also a good student. I wasn't just like a good creative, I'm also a good like strategist and stuff like that. So my way of thinking about it is like, how can I also satisfy that side of my brain that loves problem solving and like research
Yeah.
and merging that into the art scene. And then what I kind of did is, I did my major in advertising, but then I did a minor in art. So that way I was able to explore both simultaneously,
Mm.
and it also gave me a more competitive edge now in advertising because a lot of people don't know how to do studio art. So I can bring kind of those talents. When,
Yeah.
most people in advertising start as graphic designers or something like that. Advice in general is more like, first of all, if you're trying to go to college, just since you're going to owe money, like at least try to kind of somehow know what you want to do, even if that means taking like some time off just to figure it out, because then you don't want to like start and be in the middle of this one major and then have to start all over again trying to do something else. There's also not every creative profession requires you to go to college. Nowadays I feel like there's different ways that you can approach these things, which make it more accessible to a lot of people, which is good. But other than that, it's just more getting to know yourself and the industry that you're trying to get into. That's the two most important things. I think knowing yourself comes first so that then you can see in what industry you fit in. And above that is like, okay, now that I know in what industry I want to be in, like what company do you want to be in? Like, because it
Yeah.
also should reflect like the company culture kind of things that you stand for and things like that. So yeah, it all starts with getting to know yourself like really well, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But I definitely think that that advice is golden. It's good to know what you want to do. Just have an idea. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. You
Mhm.
can, always segue, but at least
Mhm.
having some sort of north star makes it easier to kind of just create an action plan, just
Yeah,
give you something to do.
even if you don't know exactly the area of study, but like you've somehow realized, and I know not everyone has that realization early on, but like what your purpose is, like what you think at least your purpose is in life, that can maybe serve as that northern star to really be like,
Yeah.
okay, well, with this purpose and this talent or this passion that I have, what kind of fits in a way that also obviously, because of the society we're in, it has to give you money at the same time. So it's kind of a merge of those three, like what will make you money, plus what is your passion or talent, plus what do you think your purpose is. And yeah, I think that's kind of my recipe.
I mean, it's working. I mean, you just got your foot in the door with Dreamville.
I
I'm telling
mean,
you,
the
it's
that
going to manifest itself. Okay, you just got to start somewhere. Like first, I was an intern, and then I became the full time. So you just got to get your pinky toe in.
right, no, but that for sure was a lot of manifesting. Like I told you, I was speaking about it with every instructor. Then the instructor that I did that headphones project and the IKEA OVO project, he
Yeah,
works at Google. Shout out to
sweet.
him, Justin Adu. He really saved my life. So then since he knew I've been trying to do stuff for Dreamville, and he liked what I did. He was like, when you're about to graduate, hit me up and let's see how, like, because he knows as a person like from like minority and like as a female, it is hard to get into the industry. So he was like, I'm down to help you out. So then, funny enough, I was doing my thesis on, it was, the title was like the future of hip hop marketing, like in the post
Yeah,
pandemic landscape.
yeah.
And then the brand that I focused on, because I was so obsessed, obviously, Dreamville. So I got to interview like hella, like, I was on a mission at that point. So I reached out to a lot of like different professionals just to get like research from there. And you helped me even like, get in contact with like audio engineers because, the ideas that I had kind of involved that as well. I got to talk to the head of marketing of Dreamville just because of that, and like a lot of little things. And then funny enough, as like I'm finishing the day I had to finish my thesis was the same day that this application for this program I'm in had to be submitted, which was the same fucking time that I was like walking like my graduation ceremony. So I was there before graduating. Like, I think I had to wake up for my graduation at like 6 something because it was like 8 a.m. I went to sleep probably at like 4:30, and I was really about to be like, I'm not going to my graduation just because I was so tired to really make it happen because the application process was long as hell. And, my thesis was almost like, I think almost 200 pages. So I was like, really, they're tired. But then my parents had come all the way from Spain. So I was like, I'm not going to skip my graduation. So, did that whole thing, graduated. And then I wasn't still done with what I had not finished yet was my application. So I literally, everyone's like, yo, let's party, let's this, let's that. I was like, sorry guys, but I girl got a dream to chase. Like literally, that's kind of what I said. And then I came
Yeah.
back home, changed real quick. Not even changed because under my, the garment or whatever you call that, I had gym clothes because I was just so tired. I was just like, I'm just gonna be there to walk, and then I'm going home to continue this application. And then yeah, I got to finish it on time. And whew, yeah, and that was like I said, like big thank you to like Justin Adu because he was able to kind of like be like, oh yeah, this is a dope ass creative that she was in Miami at school. Like, let's see if you guys like her stuff. And then
That's
yeah, he
awesome.
definitely helped.
It literally just takes one person to just be like, "Oh yeah, I know this
Believe in you.
person," and just be like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, no, she's definitely got the talent." I'm telling you, I'm trying to get you over here at Microsoft, bro. I need you.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could design some stuff over here. But no, like I'm always here to help. Like no matter what, like even if it's just to connect you with other amazing people that I know, like I think that's like the whole point is like for us to all grow using the skills and connections that we have,
Mhm.
like this stuff
Yeah.
that's how we create freaking awesome future, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
No, I super appreciate that. And also, like, us not coming from this country, it's not like we had our connections from our parents or like
true,
at least
exactly.
like any family. It's more like all the
Yeah,
stuff that you did with your hard work and like your work ethic. So it's definitely, yeah, like that's how I'm saying, like, after making it easier for those that come after us to be like, okay, I got this opportunity and I know your talent is great. Like, let's see if we can make that connection, like
exactly.
something.
I think it's important, you know, there's like why like if people open the door for me, well, who am I to be selfish,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and just keep it
Right,
shit.
right.
Like and it's like for what? It's not helping me. It's not my money at the end of the
Mhm.
day. Like I'm
Yeah.
just trying to make us all wealthy.
Mhm.
Wealthy and
And like the
happy.
blessings, like blessings are
Exactly.
unlimited. Like, so don't just keep
Exactly.
them to yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Infinite. The more blessings we share, the more we reap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how can folks like learn more about all of your different campaigns, like see where your career goes, like find out when you do get your job at Dreamville cuz we manifest in that shit, you know what I mean? Dreamville, are you listening? Hire the girl. Hire her. You will not regret it. Like
You'll
but yeah, how
see.
can
You
folks like learn about your portfolio? Just like see all the cool shit you do because I'm always inspired every time you come out with a new thing. I'm just like, oh my god, Michelle, that's
thanks,
dope,
bro.
sis.
Well, you can go on my website, which is literally just michelemardorf .com. Michelle with one L, by the way. And then, we can spell it out in the caption or whatever. And then my Instagram, which is honestly the main thing I use to like keep up with life, because other than that, I just don't have time for anything. Cries. It's MichiMardorf, Michi Mardorf. And yeah, that's kind of where I have all like my visual stuff going on, and then my website is my portfolio basically.
Sweet, sweet. Well, if you're listening, check out her portfolio. It's got some really dope stuff. Maybe it'll inspire you. Maybe you'll see what the cool creatives are doing, what the youth is up to. You know, just check it out. Support your girl. And as always, another great episode on the Chatterbox.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Chatterbox. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to show your support by subscribing to this podcast and leaving us a review. Follow us on Instagram at the.chatterbox for teasers and updates.